My fiancé's friendship revealed secrets and betrayals that shook me to my core, making me doubt everything I believed about trust, love, and loyalty. I, 28F, never imagined I'd be the type to post here, but I've been sitting on this for weeks, and it's eating at me. I can't tell if I'm overreacting, being paranoid, or if there's actually something off. Either way, I need to get it out that I'm engaged to my fiancé, Mark, 30M. We've been together for 6 years, engaged for 10 months, wedding planned for next spring. Everything should feel perfect. And normally, it does. Most of the time. Then there's my best friend, Emily, 27F. We've been inseparable since college, pulling all-nighters over term papers, crying over exes, surviving a tiny apartment with more cockroaches than space. She was my rock, my go-to, my person. When I got engaged, I assumed she'd be my maid of honor, my support, everything. But lately, I don't know. Something feels different. That a few weeks ago, I showed her my wedding dress. I had it on in my bedroom, the soft evening light spilling through the blinds, casting stripes across the hardwood floor. I was spinning nervously in front of the full-length mirror, holding my breath, hoping for that wow moment. Emily was perched on the edge of my bed, wine glass in hand, watching silently. It's nice," she said finally, tilting her head, eyes narrowing slightly. "But don't you think it makes your shoulders look wider?" I forced a laugh. "Oh, come on, stop being picky." But there was that tiny flicker in her eyes. I swear I saw it, like she was amused in a way that made my stomach twist. That exact moment, Mark walked in. He hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder, and looked at the mirror. Instead of the reassuring smile I expected, he said quietly, she might have a point. But honestly, you'll still look amazing." Emily let out a small chuckle, raising her glass like it was some inside joke, and I froze. I don't even know if it was real, but in that instant, their expressions, the corner of his mouth, the way her eyes sparkled, made me feel like a third wheel in my own moment. Later that night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Mark slept soundly beside me. I kept replaying it in my head. Her voice, his smile, the way they looked at each other, even if it was nothing. My heart kept sinking deeper with every memory that I tried to convince myself I was overreacting. It's just a dress. They're probably joking. I'm being paranoid. But even as I said it, a small voice in my head whispered, "What if you're not?" And it doesn't stop there. Every message from Emily lately feels different. Casual texts now carry double meanings. She compliments me, but there's always that tiny edge, that smirk I can feel through words. I don't know if it's intentional or my imagination going wild, but I can't shake it that I keep telling myself, I'm probably reading too much into things. But why does my chest tighten every time they laugh together? Why do I feel a pang when she sends me a picture from her weekend, Mark included? This should be my happiest time, and instead, I feel a knot of anxiety I can't untangle, and now, I don't even know how to bring it up without sounding paranoid. Or worse, jealous. I feel like I'm losing my grip on my own happiness. I just need someone to tell me if I'm crazy here. The next day, Mark suggested we all grab coffee together. Me, him, and Emily. I agreed, trying to sound casual, but my stomach had other ideas. The cafe was bustling, the smell of espresso and fresh pastries filling the air. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting stripes across the worn wooden tables. Emily arrived first, sliding into the booth with her usual grin. "Hey, bride-to-be," she teased, nudging my shoulder playfully. I smiled, but there was a twitch in her eye I couldn't ignore. Mark poured himself a coffee, giving me a reassuring squeeze on the hand. "You okay?" he whispered. I nodded, forcing calm, though my fingers still tingled from nerves. "So, when are you two thinking of doing the big wedding dance?" Emily asked, swirling her latte. Her tone was casual, but there was a subtle edge I couldn't place. "Oh, you know, probably something traditional," I said, trying to sound light. "Maybe a slow waltz." Mark chuckled. "Yeah, I'm imagining us stepping on each other's feet in front of everyone." Emily laughed, but I caught it. A sharp little laugh, almost knowing. She glanced at Mark, then back at me, and I felt a pang in my chest I couldn't rationalize. We chatted for a while, all surface-level small talk, but every time Emily said something, it felt loaded. "You've got a lot on your hands with the planning, huh?" she said casually. but her eyes lingered on me a second too long that I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was just hypersensitive, I told myself. But my mind kept running through every word, every glance, every laugh. By the time we left, I felt exhausted, my chest tight, like I'd been holding my breath all afternoon. That night, I kept replaying the cafe scene in my head. Mark was oblivious to it, probably rightly so, and Emily seemed perfectly innocent on the surface. But I couldn't stop thinking, why do I feel like there's something I'm not seeing? I texted Emily later. Thanks for coffee today. Had fun. Her reply came almost immediately. Yeah, it was fun. Can't wait for the bachelorette trip. And there it was again, the subtle tone, the wink emoji. My chest sank, my mind spiraled. Was I imagining things? Or was this a pattern I hadn't noticed before? I lay in bed again that night, scrolling through old photos of us together, laughing, silly faces, moments where everything felt safe. I wanted to trust her, to trust Mark, to trust myself. But something inside whispered, watch closer. Don't ignore it that I couldn't shake the feeling after that coffee. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily laughing with Mark, the tiny smirk she'd given him when I was distracted. I knew I was being paranoid. At least, I kept telling myself that. But my gut screamed otherwise that I started flipping through old photos on my phone. There we were at graduation, all of us crowded into that tiny apartment with paint-chipped walls. Emily was always in the center, Mark and I flanking her, laughing at some inside joke I couldn't even remember now. Remember that night we stayed up until 3 a.m. studying for psych finals? I whispered to myself, scrolling. Yeah, Emily fell asleep on the couch, and Mark tried to carry her to bed. I swear she gave him this look. The memory made my stomach twist. It had been harmless, I told myself. But now, with my current doubts, everything seemed layered. Could there have been little moments like that before? Signs I hadn't noticed? Later that evening, Emily texted me. Hey, want to grab a drink tomorrow? I hesitated. Do I want to? Or am I looking for more reasons to panic? But I replied, sure, sounds good. Where? She suggested a small wine bar downtown, dimly lit, candles flickering, music low enough to feel private, but loud enough to cover whispers. I thought I was just going for a casual hangout, but part of me dreaded seeing how she and Mark might look together, even in my imagination. The next day, as I got ready, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My heart raced. My hands shook slightly. I muttered, you're crazy. You're imagining things. But the doubt lingered anyway. At the bar, Emily arrived first. She waved, sliding into the booth with that same grin that used to make me feel at ease. Mark wasn't there, thankfully, but the tension didn't ease. Every sip of wine, every glance around the room, I felt hyper-aware, analyzing her every gesture. You okay? She asked, noticing me fidgeting with my napkin. Yeah, just tired, I said, forcing a smile. But inside, my mind kept circling. Am I overreacting? Or is this the start of something I'm going to regret ignoring? By the time I left, I was emotionally drained. That night, lying in bed, I thought back to every coffee meetup, every small joke, every seemingly innocent glance. My chest tightened again. I wanted to trust her, wanted to trust Mark, wanted to trust myself. But all I felt was this nagging, unrelenting tension, whispering, pay attention. It was a quiet Tuesday evening, the apartment dimly lit by the soft glow of the kitchen light. I was washing dishes when my phone buzzed. A message from Emily popped up. Mark was joking about the dress again. LOL, you should have seen his face. I froze, soap suds slipping from my hands. Was he really joking? Or was she laughing at me? My chest tightened. I tried to text back casually. I saw. Funny. But my fingers hovered too long over the keyboard. Mark walked in from the living room, humming a tune, oblivious. Everything okay? He asked, noticing my pause. Yeah, just tired. I muttered, forcing a smile. But inside, I was boiling. That laugh, the way Emily phrased it, felt like a jab, even if it wasn't meant that way. Later, Emily called. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity and dread won. Her voice came through, light and teasing. Hey, don't be mad at me. I was just joking. I know. I hesitated, unsure how to phrase the knot in my stomach. It sounded like you were laughing at me with Mark. There was a pause. I could almost hear her smirk over the line. Oh, come on, you're imagining things. We were laughing at how dramatic you looked spinning in the dress, not at you. I exhaled slowly. Part of me believed her. Part of me didn't. The doubt lingered, like a shadow clinging to every corner of the room. That night, lying in bed, I replayed the conversation over and over. Every laugh, every word, every tiny pause in her voice. My mind was spiraling, filling in gaps with possibilities I didn't want to admit. The tension was building, like I was on the edge of a cliff, knowing something was about to happen, but not what I knew. I needed clarity, but asking directly felt dangerous. I didn't want to seem jealous or controlling, but leaving things unsaid was eating me alive. It was Saturday evening, and we'd all gone to a small housewarming party hosted by one of Mark's coworkers. The living room was warm with soft amber lighting, the faint scent of cinnamon candles lingering in the air. Music hummed in the background, laughter bouncing off the walls. I thought I was prepared to act normal, but the moment Emily and Mark started talking near the snack table, I felt my stomach twist. Emily leaned in slightly, whispering something to him. Mark laughed, a short, genuine laugh, and for a split second, their eyes met in a way that made my chest tighten. I forced myself to take a deep breath. I'm imagining it, I repeated silently. A few minutes later, they joined the group near the kitchen, talking quietly. I tried focusing on small talk with other guests, but every glance at them made my mind race. Emily nudged Mark, saying, "You always tell the funniest stories. Remember the camping trip?" Mark chuckled, shaking his head. "I can't believe you remembered that detail. I thought I'd blocked it from memory." I felt a pang of jealousy that I couldn't explain. It was an innocent story, a harmless memory, but watching them laugh together, so in sync, triggered something uneasy. That I excused myself, stepping out onto the balcony. The cold night air hit my face, and I wrapped my arms around myself. I texted a friend, "Does it ever feel like your best friend is too close to your fiancé?" Minutes later, Emily stepped onto the balcony, holding a glass of wine. "Hey, everything okay?" she asked softly. "Yeah," I said, though my voice trembled slightly. "Just needed some air." She leaned against the railing, her eyes meeting mine. "You know I'd never cross a line, right?" "I know," I replied, forcing a smile. But inside, I didn't know. I wanted to trust her, but my gut refused to calm. Every small interaction, every shared laugh, was now a potential minefield. By the time we left the party, I was exhausted, mentally replaying every word, every gesture, every glance. I couldn't tell if my mind was overreacting or finally noticing, a pattern I'd ignored for too long. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about the party. Every laugh, every glance, every tiny exchange between Emily and Mark was looping in my head. I needed someone to talk to, someone neutral. So, I called my sister, Claire, 32F, that we met at a small cafe downtown. The smell of freshly baked bread mixing with espresso, and the hum of conversations surrounding us. Claire slid into the booth across from me, raising an eyebrow. "Something's up," she said immediately, sensing my tension. I sighed, gripping my mug tightly. "It's Emily and Mark. I can't stop thinking about how close they seem sometimes. At the party last night, I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting." Claire took a sip of her latte, frowning. I mean, it could be nothing. But if it's making you anxious, it's worth paying attention to. How do you feel when you're around them? Jealous, confused, angry sometimes, even though I don't want to be." My voice wavered, and I looked down at my hands. "I hate that I feel like this, but I can't stop." Claire reached across the table, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. "You're not crazy, but maybe try talking to Emily directly. Sometimes confronting things clears your head, even if it's uncomfortable." Her advice lingered in my mind. The rest of the day, I wanted to confront Emily, but I also feared the consequences. Would I sound paranoid? Would it ruin our friendship? The questions piled up, pressing against my chest like the weight of a storm. Later, as I walked home, my phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "Hey, want to grab dinner tonight?" I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. Part of me wanted to say yes, to pretend everything was fine. Another part wanted to hide under the covers and avoid the conversation entirely. I typed back cautiously, "Sure, what time?" As I hit send, I felt that familiar knot in my stomach, a mix of anticipation and dread. I knew this dinner could be just another friendly catch-up, or it could push things further into a place I wasn't ready to handle. Either way, I couldn't avoid it forever. That evening, I met Emily at the little Italian place she'd picked. The warm scent of garlic and baked bread filled the air, dim lighting casting soft shadows over the rustic wooden tables. My heart pounded before I even sat down. "Hey," Emily said brightly, sliding into the booth opposite me. "It's been ages since we had a proper catch-up." "Yeah, it has," I replied, forcing a smile. But my stomach was tight, coiled. With tension, we ordered wine and small plates, trying to keep conversation light. But I couldn't help noticing how easily she laughed at my fiancé's jokes in my mind, even though he wasn't there. The memory made my pulse quicken. Finally, unable to hold back, I blurted out, "Emily, I need to ask you something. Something serious." She tilted her head, a little wary. "Okay, shoot." "It's about you and Mark," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I feel like sometimes you're too close. At the party last night, at coffee. I don't know. I can't tell if I'm imagining it, but I feel like there's something between you two." Emily blinked, surprised. "Wait, what? You actually think?" "I don't know what I think," I interrupted, frustrated. "I'm trying to trust both of you, but I feel these little things, these glances, these laughs, and I can't ignore them anymore." She leaned back, exhaling sharply. "Wow, okay. I honestly didn't realize I was making you feel like that. Mark and I are friends. That's it. I'd never cross a line with you." "I know you say that," I muttered, "but I can't stop feeling uneasy. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm paranoid. I don't want to lose our friendship, but I also can't keep feeling like this." There was a pause, the kind that stretches long enough for every doubt, every fear, every whispered suspicion to fill the space between us. The clink of silverware and distant laughter from other tables faded into background noise. Finally, Emily's voice softened. "I get it. I don't want you to feel this way. I promise I'll be more aware, okay?" I nodded, trying to calm my racing thoughts. But deep down, the unease didn't fully go away. That night, walking home, I replayed every moment, every word, every glance. The tension was still there, now heavier, because I'd spoken it aloud. Now there was no going back to simple doubt. I had to face it head-on eventually. After that dinner, I couldn't sleep. The memory of our conversation with Emily kept looping in my head, like a song I couldn't turn off. The faint hum of the street outside my window mixed with the soft rustle of the curtains, and I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to untangle my thoughts. I opened my phone again, scrolling through old messages between Emily and me. Every emoji, every haha, every casual compliment now felt scrutinized under a microscope. Was I reading too much into it? Or were there subtle signs I had been ignoring? Mark texted me late. "Everything okay? You seem off." I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I wanted to tell him everything, but I feared the weight of my suspicions. Instead, I typed cautiously, "Just tired, long day." Later, I called my coworker and friend, Julia, 29F. She's someone who knows me well and gives blunt but honest advice. "You need to breathe, Alex," she said. "Sometimes we notice patterns that aren't really there. But trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, address it, but carefully. Don't accuse, observe." Her words echoed in my mind. Observe, don't accuse. That was exactly what I needed. A plan, a way to navigate the tension without destroying the relationships that I spent the next few days quietly watching, noticing small details. How Emily laughed at Mark's jokes, how often she reached out with texts or calls, how she lingered near him when we were all together. Each moment chipped away at my confidence, but I reminded myself, don't overreact. Don't accuse. Just pay attention. By the end of the week, I realized I couldn't go on like this. The tension was building inside me, a pressure I couldn't release. Something had to happen. Either I confronted in a controlled way, or I let it grow until it exploded, and deep down, I knew that once I acted, nothing would be the same. It was Thursday evening, and Mark was working late. Emily texted me out of the blue. "Hey, want to come over? Just us. I have something to show you." My stomach sank. Something to show me? Alone? I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I didn't want to seem paranoid, but a tiny voice inside me screamed, "This feels off." Curiosity won. I typed, "Okay, what time?" When I arrived at her apartment, the scent of vanilla candles and fresh cookies filled the air. She was sitting on the couch, her phone in hand, scrolling through pictures. "Hey, I wanted to show you some old photos from our trip last year, she said with a warm smile. I sat down, leaning slightly forward, trying to keep my tone casual. Sure, let's see. As she flipped through the pictures, my heart raced. Most were innocent, but then she showed a photo of her and Mark at a party, their faces close, laughing. Look at this one, she said, nudging me playfully. We were unstoppable that night. I swallowed hard, trying to force a smile. Yeah, looks fun. But inside, my chest tightened. The way she said, we, and nudged me. It felt like a subtle claim, and my mind couldn't ignore it. I tried to focus on the other photos, but she kept nudging me, laughing at little private jokes she and Mark had shared. Each one felt like a small jab, a reminder of intimacy I wasn't part of. Finally, I stood up. I should go, I said, my voice tighter than intended. Oh, already? She asked, slightly surprised. You're overreacting, Alex. We're just reminiscing. I know, I muttered, grabbing my coat. It's late, I guess. Long day. Walking home, I couldn't shake the unease. The photos, her playful nudges, the private jokes, they all piled together into a storm inside me. I wanted to believe her, but something was shifting. That evening, for the first time, I felt the line between friendship and something more blur, right? In front of me, it was Friday night, and Mark finally came home from work. The apartment smelled faintly of his cologne mixed with the takeout he had grabbed. Comforting, but tonight it only heightened my tension. I waited until we were both settled on the couch, the TV playing quietly in the background. Mark, can we talk? I asked, my voice tight. He turned to me, concerned. Of course. What's wrong? I hesitated, trying to keep my tone measured. It's about Emily. I don't know how to say this without sounding crazy, but I feel like some of her behavior is crossing boundaries. At the party, the coffee meetups, and just, lately, with the photos. Mark frowned slightly, leaning back. Photos? What do you mean? I exhaled, struggling to articulate the swirl of emotions inside me. She nudges me, shows me pictures of you two together, jokes about private moments. I know she says it's innocent, but it doesn't feel that way to me. I can't ignore it anymore. He paused, then reached for my hand. Alex, I promise you, she's just a friend. She doesn't mean anything by it. I'd never do anything behind your back, and I wouldn't let her either. I want to believe that, I whispered, my voice trembling. But every time I see her laughing with you, I feel uneasy. And I hate feeling this way. I don't want to be paranoid, but I also can't just brush it off. Mark squeezed my hand reassuringly. I get it. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. And I want you to tell me if you feel uncomfortable, okay? No judgment. I nodded, a mix of relief and lingering doubt swirling inside me. Part of me believed him completely. Part of me was still on high alert. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction. The trust wasn't broken, but it was fragile, and I knew the next steps would be critical. It was Sunday afternoon, and I was scrolling through old group chat messages when something caught my eye. A message from Emily, months ago, slipped past. Unnoticed. Haha. Mark totally didn't notice me sneaking that text. I froze. My coffee cup trembled in my hand, spilling a few drops on the table. Sneaking a text? To whom? My mind raced. I couldn't recall the context, but the phrasing made my stomach twist. I called Claire immediately. I just found something, I whispered, trying not to sound panicked. A message from Emily, months ago. It says she sneaked a text from Mark. I don't know who it was to, or if I'm overreacting, but I feel sick. Claire sighed, her voice calm but serious. Alex, take a breath. We can't jump to conclusions, but you have a right to know what's going on. Maybe ask Mark about it directly. I knew she was right, but every scenario my mind conjured was worse than the last. What if it was innocent? What if it wasn't? My chest tightened, and the coffee aroma did nothing to calm me. Later, Mark called. Hey, what's up? You seem off again. I found something, I said, my voice unsteady. A message from Emily months ago. It mentioned sneaking a text from you. Can you explain? Mark paused. Oh, that. It's nothing, really. She was just joking about trying to surprise me with a gift for my birthday. Honestly, it's innocent. I wanted to believe him, but part of me couldn't shake the image of Emily smirking, Mark distracted, and the vague phrasing of the message. That afternoon, I sat on the couch, staring at my phone, my mind a storm of doubt, relief, and lingering suspicion. After the revelation and Mark's explanation, I couldn't stop thinking about Emily's messages. Even though he said it was innocent, a part of me remained on edge. I decided to pay closer attention without confronting anyone yet. The next few days, I watched small interactions carefully. At the gym, Emily waved at Mark, laughing at some joke I didn't hear. At lunch, she texted him while he was on a break. Each tiny movement or glance made my stomach twist that I told myself, don't overreact. Just watch. But even that was hard. Every laugh, every casual text felt magnified. I replayed past conversations, trying to see if I had missed patterns before. Late that evening, I posted on Reddit, hoping for advice anonymously. Here's what I wrote. I'm feeling uneasy about my fiancé and my best friend. Everything seems innocent, but I can't shake this feeling. Am I overreacting? Top comments started rolling in. Not the asshole. Trust your gut. Small things can add up. Honestly, it might be nothing, but don't ignore your feelings. Observation is smart. Everyone sucks here if you start accusing without proof. But documenting your feelings is okay. Keep your eyes open. Sometimes the red flags are subtle. Reading these comments made me both anxious and oddly validated. Some suggested I might be overthinking, others warned to stay alert. My inner monologue churned. Maybe I'm imagining it. Or maybe I'm finally noticing the pattern. That night, lying awake, I realized I couldn't go back to blind trust. The tension had shifted. Now, I was actively watching, waiting, trying to piece together a reality I wasn't sure I could fully trust. Over the next few days, I felt like I was walking on eggshells. Every text from Emily, every casual laugh from Mark, every message notification set my heart racing. I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept wandering back to their interactions. One evening, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, notebook beside me. I started jotting down small observations, times, places, subtle behaviors. Was I overanalyzing? Maybe, but I needed to know for myself. Later that night, Mark came home. The apartment smelled of pizza and the faint lavender from the candlelight. Lit to calm myself. He sat across from me, smiling, oblivious to the storm brewing in my head. Long day. He asked, "Yeah, can we talk tomorrow?" I said carefully, "I need to go over some things, get clarity on a few concerns." He nodded, but there was a slight tension in his eyes. "Sure, I'm here." I spent the night rehearsing what I would say, careful phrasing, calm tone, no accusations. But inside, my emotions were a tangled mess of doubt, fear, and lingering jealousy. By the end of the week, I realized confrontation wasn't just inevitable, it was necessary. The problem wasn't just Emily's behavior or even Mark's responses. It was my own trust, my own uncertainty. If I didn't address it directly, the tension would fester and destroy more than just my peace of mind. That I also knew that once I started, there was no turning back. Every word, every reaction would change the dynamic permanently. But I was ready, or at least as ready as I could be. It was Saturday evening. I asked Mark to come early so we could have a quiet dinner, just the three of us, me, Mark, and Emily. The apartment smelled faintly of roasted vegetables, and the soft glow from the lamp made everything feel intimate, almost deceptively calm. Once we were seated, I took a deep breath. "I need to talk about something important," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. Emily looked curious, leaning forward slightly. Mark's expression was neutral, but I could sense tension underneath. "It's about you and Mark," I continued. "I've noticed things that made me uncomfortable, private jokes, photos, texts, moments that seem more than just friendly. I don't want to accuse anyone, but I need honesty. I need clarity." Emily blinked, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. "Alex, I had no idea you felt this way. Really, I was never trying to make you uncomfortable. Mark and I are just friends. That's it." Mark reached across, taking my hand. "I've never crossed a line, and I never would. I want to reassure you, and I want to be transparent with everything. You have nothing to worry about." I nodded slowly, absorbing their words. Part of me wanted to believe them completely, but another part remained wary. The confrontation hadn't magically fixed my unease. It had only laid it bare. Emily added, softly, "I promise I'll be more conscious of my actions. I don't want to hurt you or make you feel excluded." I appreciated that, but the knot in my stomach lingered. The air between us was calmer, but fragile, like glass barely held together. I realized that trust, once shaken, could never return to its original state. It could only be rebuilt, slowly, carefully, and with time. The next few days felt different. Not magically perfect, not without tension, but calmer. I caught myself replaying the confrontation over and over, analyzing every word, every gesture that I realized that my unease wasn't entirely about Emily or Mark. It was about trust, boundaries, and my own insecurities. The confrontation had forced everything into the open, and that clarity, while uncomfortable, was necessary. Mark was attentive, patient, and honest, and Emily made an effort to respect my feelings. Slowly, I started to feel a little relief. I still observed, still noticed small interactions, but the anxiety no longer controlled me. That I also reflected on myself. I had allowed suspicion and fear to grow unchecked for too long. I had learned how important communication is, how essential it is to voice concerns before letting them fester, and how fragile trust can be, but also how it can be rebuilt with honesty and effort. Sitting on the balcony that evening, the smell of rain and damp earth filling the air, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. I didn't have all the answers, and maybe I never would. But for the first time in weeks, I felt grounded, aware, and more in control of my emotions. Whatever the future held, I knew I had done my part. I faced my fears, demanded honesty, and preserved the relationships that mattered most. That was enough for now.